hit that like button. Like we always do about this time.
We always do about this time.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
God bless the United States.
For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real?
The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing.
All right, what's happening, guys? Popping right in. How's everybody doing? It's Tuesday, December 16th. How's everybody doing with their shopping? Have you gotten it done yet? Are you struggling? Are you way behind? Have you not even started yet? Sorry, don't want to make you think about that right now, but we got a lot to talk about today. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you for your time, your energy, your passion. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in if you could, please. If you feel yourself, kind of sticking around, liking what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers here at Blonde Politics, and I really do appreciate your support and helping me get there. A multitude of different ways in which you can help the channel if you are in the financial position to do so. If not, like, share, subscribe, totally free. Don't have to spend a buck. You can watch all my content. No penny spent. That's all. But you are in the financial position to do so, and you do like supporting independent creators like myself, there's a Venmo up in the corner where you can send a buck or two. It is a great way to help the show. You can sign up for a channel membership just underneath me. There's a Patreon at patreon.com/BostonBrian. Or, like I said, you can just share some videos out there. Check me out at realbostonbrian.substack. Check me out on Blue Sky. So we got a lot to talk about today. Unfortunately, the incompetent FBI strikes again. Kash Patel doing podcasts with his girlfriend, flying around on their PJ, as opposed to trying to lock up the criminals that were, responsible for killing the two students there at Brown University. Just much like the Charlie Kirk incident, the original person taken into custody, not the suspect, ended up being released. His name out there in a few different areas, pictures out there in a few different areas. Not a good sign, not a good thing for that person, obviously. But a new suspect, new pictures and photos have been released of a person of interest. So we'll be digging into that, obviously talking about Kash Patel talking to his girlfriend on their podcast, as opposed to, again, doing real work. But let me just, my apologies. Let me just see if we can get into some of the other things that we'll be talking about today, because the U.S. has carried out more strikes on Venezuelan boats. I think it was another 3 strikes, killing, if I'm not mistaken, another 8 people. So that brings the total somewhere between 95 and 100 people now killed by the United States undertaken in these strikes. Another 3. But this time, Pete Hegseth not releasing the video footage, apparently. He's not going to play that game again. He doesn't want anybody to apparently see the people clinging on to the side of the wreckage. Maybe this time. I don't know. But we also have, like I said, new footage of the person of interest in the Brown shooting. We'll be talking about, obviously, the disgusting comments by Donald Trump and the reaction by not only sane and right-minded people, but obviously and people from the right-hand side of the spectrum as well were also not too happy, not too pleased. So there's a couple clips there. I think Piers Morgan had something to say about it as well. We have a clip from the United Nations Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, talking about the non-existent Israel ceasefire that's been not happening in Gaza. It's the same thing that I've been telling you to say, pretty much just to kind of corroborate what we've been talking about here. A couple videos here from the I've Had It podcast, ladies. Susie Wiles did a wild interview, apparently, where she's calling everybody. She called Donald Trump an alcoholic, talking about J.D. Vance and other people in the administration. There's a CNN clip speaking about that as well. And then we'll be diving into the battle taking place in and around, Ukraine, around Kupyansk, some of the propaganda there, Ukraine taking out a Russian submarine worth allegedly $400 to $500 million. There's some footage to come out of that. It might have even been 2 Russian submarines affected in this attack. So like I said, I wanted to kind of break down that footage and see if we can kind of really dissect what damage may have been done, because you can never go by the Russians, right? You can never go by the Russians. These are the same people that said, the Moskva, the ship that was sunk, still went back to port under its own power. Any one of the number of lies that we could talk about that has been proven wrong ever since. But let me get into thanking some people here in the old chat. What do you say we bring the chat in for a couple minutes on the screen? What's up, guys? How are you guys doing? I appreciate you. What's up, Michael? What's up, big guy? What's happening, my man? Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a great holiday season. We welcome you here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. What's up, Troll Slayer? What's up, Julie? What's up, Tomas? How are you? Thank you so much for being here for 22 months, brother. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. I appreciate you, brother. What's up, Greg? What's going on? What's up, Carl? What up, Jay? What's up, Alyosha? Hey, Don. What's up, Karen? Everybody, I appreciate you guys. Sorry if I don't get to you. I see you all in there, though. I really do appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that like button. All right, let's dive into a few different aspects of what we'll be talking about today. I just wanted to start off here with the news of the ongoing strikes that the U.S. has continuously undertaken here on these boats. More undertaken here. Let me throw this on your screen. This is just a quick 2-minute update, quick 2-minute clip, just to kind of fill everybody in on what's been going on this week with the most recent of these boat strikes. This is titled U.S. Military Strikes More Alleged Drug Boats in the Eastern Pacific. Trump administration says, and I do believe it was 3 more strikes killing, responsible for at least the deaths of 8 different people. 8 more people. So again, I think the death toll is somewhere around 95, between 95 and 100 at this point. So let's dive into this. Lots to get to, though. Lots to get to today. So please stick around. I appreciate it. And again, if you, you contribute to the chat, if you send in a super sticker, super chat, if you sign up for a membership, if you hit a milestone, that will show up in the chat. And don't worry, if I don't see it go by right away, stick around till the end of the show. At the end of every single episode, I make sure to go through and highlight and give everybody their dues and shout outs for, their financial contributions or the highlights or their occasions that they hit in their milestones for their membership. So I appreciate you guys. Again, don't think that I won't recognize you because we do it at the end of the show. Please stick around and let's get into it. Thank you, guys. Hit that like button. I'm Boston Bryant. This is Blunt Politics. Thank you if you're joining me for the first time. This is just a political podcast made to sift through the bullshit, the lies, the propaganda, the mainstream media, Donald Trump, the GOP, and then we break it down, we jumble it down, and then we make it so it's easily dissectable, easily digestible, right? For the American people, for everyday working class individuals like you and like me, because that's who's affected. So let's dive into it. Again, more strikes by the U.S., 3 more strikes killing at least 8 more people. Let's dive into a little bit of the coverage. This is, I think, just a local news clip from Texas on this.
Senate are expected to have all-member briefings today on the Trump administration's military operations targeting alleged drug boats off the coast of Venezuela. It comes as more strikes this week killed 8. Natalie Brand has details from the White House.
New video released by the military shows the latest strikes on 3 alleged drug boats in the Eastern Pacific. U.S. Southern Command says 8 narco-terrorists were killed in the operation. Since September, there have been more than 24 strikes off the coast of Venezuela, killing at least 95.
Drugs coming in by sea are down 94%.
Monday, President Trump repeated a warning.
I mean, again, where is that number coming from? Where is that number cited from? Because I'm going to call bullshit. All right, I'm just going to call bullshit. There's no way that that's fucking even remotely possible that almost 100% of the drugs coming in by ship, coming in by boat to the United States have ceased because of these 95 people that we've killed in the Caribbean, in and around the Pacific and the Caribbean. Bullshit.
Could be next.
We're going to start hitting them on land, which is a lot easier to do, frankly. But
again, ladies and gentlemen, the president of peace. The peace president, America first, America only. We're not getting involved in any foreign wars. We're not going to, put our servicemen and women in jeopardy, at risk for needless and stupid engagements that, don't benefit us, right? This is what we're talking about. So now openly talking about as the military stands behind him. Again, this has to be the most embarrassing moment in every single one of the careers of the military men standing behind him right now. Whether they're commanders, admirals, generals, whatever the fuck they may be, this absolutely has to be one of the most embarrassing moments, right? I don't know if they were forced, volunteered, whatever. I don't know if their position just requires them to stand behind. I don't know what the fuck it is. But you can be damn sure that these people will absolutely remember this moment in their career as the time that they stood behind the dictator, the authoritarian, Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, and the man that used fucking 7 or 8 deferments to get out of serving in the military, while he's talking about his illegal, unconstitutional, against international law, against maritime law, against the Geneva Conventions, actions that we're taking out using the United States military, putting our commanders in legal liability, right? We saw that with the last commander that was responsible for the attack on the 2 survivors, right? We don't know what's to come from that, but still, definitely putting yourself in legal jeopardy by following the orders of this guy. So to stand behind him and make it seem like he has the backing of the United States military, regardless of his position, is just it's a pretty sore sight to see. And, something I'm sure that these people will remember. And again, who knows what their political affiliations are, who they actually support. I don't know. I'm sure some of them are actually proud to be standing behind them. But for the actual soldiers, for the actual, career military men that actually take their oath to their fucking duty really serious, and understand how meaningful it is and how dangerous these actions are, definitely don't want to be caught dead behind this guy.
These are a direct military threat to the United States of America. They're trying to drug out our country.
Right. The boats that literally we've already proven couldn't get here even if they wanted to, unless they were fucking followed by several gasoline boats, several boats just continuously filling them with gasoline in order to refill them so they could even make it to the coast of the United States. But again, yes, the big military threat. So what are we doing? We put our entire fucking Navy, pretty much half of our Navy down there. It's a big threat. So let's put on just no sense whatsoever made by these people.
Secretary Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are briefing all House and Senate members.
And again, this is after Pete Hegseth said that they're not going to release the classified footage, or the so-called classified footage of the strikes that everybody else has been talking about. The blatantly illegal acts on the second strike. Again, pretty much overlooking the original illegal act of the first strike. But still, that's what seems to stand out in the minds of the American people is the image of people clinging onto wreckage and then being struck. So again, that's what most people are talking about, even though all of the strikes right now can be classified as illegal and unconstitutional strikes. But yes, this is, something I wanted to let you know was still ongoing, something they haven't stopped, something they're still trying to ramp up, even though we caught them fucking pretty much with their hand in the cookie jar, just blowing people out of the water, holding on to wreckage, like we said. They continue to do this, in broad daylight, pretty much. So yeah, unbelievable in what we're seeing. These incompetent fools that now run the military, right? The incompetent fools that now run the FBI, the incompetent fools that are now ahead of the DOJ, that are actively fucking running the White House. We're now starting to see how dangerous those impacts are and how careless they are, how they don't care because they feel like they have everybody they need in all the positions of power to get them out of trouble. No matter what decisions they make, they have the right person in place to make sure that if the committee gets to see it or if it goes to this fucking person to look at, they have somebody in place or they have somebody already established in that fucking agency to make sure that this is going to go away, right? They have a friend, an ally, whatever it may be, somebody at the head, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, Donald Trump himself, somebody that's going to make sure that this is never seen by anybody, make sure that there's no ramifications, nobody's fired, nobody's held accountable, nothing. Everybody can just do and say as they please in this administration, and they have absolutely no fear of being fired for it. Again, unless it has direct negative impacts on Donald Trump. And that's pretty much the only way you can possibly find yourself in hot water, apparently, if you work for this administration. But speaking of hot water, this administration incompetency, that kind of leads us into our next story pretty well. A good segue into the incompetency that we now see shown by the FBI, right? And I'm not saying this goes down to the men and women that have their feet and boots on the ground, that are knocking on doors, that are actively trying to conduct these investigations. I'm talking about the leadership of the FBI. I'm talking about the way in which they're unbelievably incompetent, running these investigations like it was, I don't know, some sort of TMZ, only done for the nightly news type of thing where, they get a bit of information, they run right to the cameras to release that information so everybody can fucking applaud and pat themselves on the back. so that an hour or two later we could find out, well, nope, all of that information that they just told us was absolutely fucking incorrect. The person has absolutely nothing to do with it. He's been released on his own accord, and now he's got a lawsuit already fucking filed against the FBI for his name being splattered out there in relationship to this crime, a murder, or whatever it may be. Well, this is happening all over again. Deja vu all over again, because on the last show we talked about how the mainstream media was reporting about a person of interest, a person in custody. Kash Patel, the FBI, again, breaking their arms, trying to pat themselves on the back for the amazing, outstanding work that they're doing. Meanwhile, Kash Patel, I'll show you this. I don't know if anybody saw this, but this was put on by Twitter. This is Centrism fan account. I'm not sure who the account is, but they say ongoing manhunt that the FBI director is currently botching again, and they are appearing giggling and laughing on a Puff podcast to talk about their amazing relationship. This being Kash Patel and Kash Patel, his girlfriend, on Stephen Miller's podcast, Stephen Miller's wife's podcast. So this is Katie Miller posting the love story. Kash Patel and whatever his wife's name is, girlfriend's name is, whatever, is she from Israel? What yada yada yada. Meaningless questions. But again, this is as an ongoing manhunt, an ongoing investigation that has enveloped the United States. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's speaking about it. It's on all the major news platforms. We're talking about how the FBI got it wrong the first time. A guy's name was leaked in relation to him being, in custody. Meanwhile, he had nothing to do with it. Now he's got to fucking go out there and try to fight for his name, whoever, wherever that may have been released, and try to claw back his reputation. Meanwhile, we're still having this ongoing investigation, and this is what Kash Patel is doing. Check it. This is just a quick clip. This just kind of gives you a good idea of what Kash Patel is doing. Again, while the active, ongoing manhunt that has captivated the nation is still ongoing. This is, again, Katie Miller's podcast. Stephen Miller's wife, it must be wife since her last name is Miller. My apologies. I don't know if they were girlfriend or whatnot, but listen to what are they discussing the tragedies? Are they discussing any number of shootings that have taken place in inside and outside of the United States in recent days and weeks? Which, again, has pretty much captivated the news, whether it was the Bondi Beach shooting, whether it was the Brown University, whether it was the shootings of the service members in Syria, whether it was the National Guard shootings in the United States. I mean, we could continuously go down the line, but is that what they're talking about? Is that what Kash is talking about? It's funny. I wonder how we got to this podcast. Did he use the jet? Probably did. Let's check it out.
We are so excited to be joined by Kash and his beautiful girlfriend, Alexis.
Girlfriend Alexis.
I just want to clarify, you're not Jewish.
I'm not.
You're not from Israel.
No.
So how did we get to, are you a Mossad agent?
That's a great question.
Where's her ring? Just to clarify, how often has he traveled to see you since January 20th? Has there been one moment where you're like, you can't?
Oh, man, I'd love to hear. There's no way I would ever subject not only myself, but you guys to any amount of time of Katie Miller's podcast, unless it was like literally a 30-second clip to show you something else on that. But good God, I wish I could hear the answer of how many times he's been to travel to visit his girlfriend using, taxpayer money in the jet, provided to him. That didn't have to do with his work related to the FBI. It's a shame that it's buried somewhere deep in that fucking vile universe of Katie Miller's podcast, but I wish I could get that answer.
This up.
But again, you can see what they're discussing, what they're talking about, and even if this was like pre-recorded, right? If I was the fucking director of the FBI, right, and I had this going on, this ongoing this ongoing investigation, this ongoing thing happening in the news, and I knew I just did that podcast, I would say, hey, Katie, how about this? Can we hold off on releasing that podcast? It's probably a bad look right now if, I'm seen kind of giggling and laughing and talking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with the betterment of the United States, making and saving and keeping the American people more safe, right? Like, we should probably just hold back maybe a week or two. Let's figure out this investigation. Once we get somebody in custody, maybe we can talk about that. Like, wouldn't that be probably, or just as the FBI director, don't do the fucking podcast. Stop doing fucking podcasts. Stop politicians. Stop. Don't even fuck. If you got important work going on, sorry, can't do the podcast right now. That's great. Honestly, I'd rather you be working for the American people than sitting there in front of some fucking bright lights in a meaningless podcast anyway. Especially if you're going to hold and run it your own. Like, definitely, I don't mind you doing appearances if you're going to be questioned, right? That's a whole different thing. But stop starting your own fucking podcast so you can get fucking some followers on YouTube and shit like that. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Maybe that's a fucking unpopular take, but it fucking really pisses me off when you're supposed to be more than half the time you spend campaigning, and now all of a sudden you're going to use what little time you do have that you actually do spend or are supposed to spend working for the American people, setting up a fucking podcast. And yeah, I understand the importance of getting your message out there, but aren't there other ways? You're a politician in the United States. There's fucking cameras all over the Capitol. There's media all over the fucking place. Get a camera, spit your shit into the camera, talk to the American people, spit your facts, and fucking move it along. Sorry, rant over. But it's something that fucking really fucking irks me. Really fucking irks me, especially with the very little time that these fuckers actually spend doing work for the American people instead of fucking out there campaigning as soon as the campaign's over already. But anyway, moving on. Please hit that like button, guys. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I really do appreciate you. But yes, as that is, as this is going on, let's play this. Let's get into this video here about the actual updates here, because, just to show you how kind of, how much of a debacle this is, and to maybe get these images out there just in case maybe this is the right person this time. Who knows? I don't know. You never fucking know with this FBI. But let me throw this on the screen. Then this is, again, just a really quick, short clip. I think it's about 2 minutes. New video of person of interest in the Brown University shooting. Authorities released new video showing 3 new angles of a person of interest walking through Providence, Rhode Island, hours before the shooting at Brown University. And again, it's almost like, do you play it? I mean, what if it's not, it's a person of interest at this point. They're so willing to fucking put anybody out there. It's almost like you're afraid to put this video out there if it's not the person, right? I don't want to be blasting some person all over the internet as a person of interest in this, and they have absolutely no fucking relationship to this whatsoever. But again, in the event that they did, just in case, and anybody knows who it is, then I'll throw it out there, especially because there's no direct name attached in this at this time.
The manhunt intensifying for the gunman who opened fire at Brown University on Saturday.
We're asking for the public's assistance in identifying and
I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a drink while this is playing.
This individual.
Authorities releasing new videos to the public tonight showing 3 new angles of a person of interest walking through Providence in the hours before the shooting. A new poster released by the FBI with the images describing the suspect as approximately 5'8" with a stocky build. The FBI also offering a $50,000 reward for information.
It's painstaking work, and we are asking the public to be patient as we continue to run down every lead so we can get victims, survivors, and their families, and all of you, the answers you deserve.
FBI teams seen searching for evidence today in Providence, going door to door, asking residents for any video that may help in the investigation.
I suddenly heard this pop, 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 7 or 8 pop sounds.
The shooting began around 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon in the Boris and Holly building on Brown's campus.
Yeah, that's what most people have been saying, Karen, is like, it doesn't show. And again, I was downstairs when it was happening, but the video that's been released just doesn't really show much, right? Doesn't really give you much.
A person of interest walking through Providence in the hours before the shooting.
I mean, I guess, if you're familiar, I guess if you're familiar with the person, you can identify by the way he's walking and stuff. But obviously, the mask and stuff, the clothes, again, whether or not this person has anything to do with it, it's up in the air. But I definitely know that you probably shouldn't jump the gun and maybe shouldn't be doing podcasts if this is actively going on in your jurisdiction, right? Something that you're actively in charge of. Shouldn't you probably do the investigatory work, make sure that you got the right person? I don't mind bringing people in for question. Obviously, that's your job. That's what you do. But don't go out there and announce to the world that you have the right person and a person in custody. Like, how about you skip that press conference, get down to brass tacks, question the person, figure out if they do have something fucking involved. And then if they do, then you can kind of fucking report it to the people, because that's then confirmed. It's fact. You don't have to guess. There's no guesswork involved. And if they don't, then the person's no worse for wear. Their name wasn't blasted out all over the internet and by the news as a person of interest in this, possibly putting their career in jeopardy, even if they fucking are, free and clear, even if they have nothing to do with it. There are still ramifications to having your name blasted out there in connection with anything like this, especially in today's day and age where everybody has social media. It's all over the place in an instant, right? So we got to be really careful, but wouldn't you rather not get in front of a camera, make yourself look like an asshole and figure out what's going on, figure out the information going on in the background? Just crazy to me. And, let me just see. I think we stopped it right about here.
5 p.m., according to the mayor's office. the reality of the event setting in on the campus as gunshots rang out. The university issued its first emergency alert about an active shooter at 4:22 p.m.
And there's definitely some, some scary videos coming out from this incident too. The more that's coming out, I mean, just the students hiding in what looked to be, like a library type area like this. I don't know if this is the beginning of that video, but there's a clip where the students are clearly, visibly, afraid, upset, and then, the police enter and the police have their guns drawn, rightly so, not knowing what's going on inside that room, who may be there with the weapon, whatnot. But I mean, just how quickly things can happen in that instant, and how scared the students must be. It's definitely goes without said, a tragic and horrible situation for everybody involved. But yeah, this is just kind of the latest, newest videos of the person that they have now put as a person of interest, the newest person of interest, I should say, in the Brown University shooting. I'll put this back on the screen. So this is what they know. Unknown suspect, Providence, Rhode Island, December 13, 2025. And those are the kind of not really identifying pictures that they have and images of that guy. So again, anybody in the area, if that's a person you recognize, contact law enforcement, contact your agencies. Make sure that you can maybe say something if you know something, right? But yeah, that kind of brings us on to, let me dive onto this next topic here. Because again, I mean, you can talk about the relationship that this has with the investigation that, again, with the Charlie Kirk investigation, people not believing anything that Kash Patel, the FBI, or the law enforcement agencies had to say in that event as well. It's along the same lines, not really having the information, coming out, announcing information, giving yourself credit. That fucking information ends up being wrong. You got to come out, retract your statement, release the person, and then everybody's kind of up in limbo again. And then from that moment on, people really don't know whether or not they can trust your investigation, trust your instincts, trust what you do, trust your leadership in this role. And this is like, what, the third or fourth different instance in which this has happened? I mean, how many more examples do we need that Kash Patel is wholly incompetent, wholly incapable of holding this position, of doing this job? Pretty blatant, you know what I mean? And it's even people on his own side now that are seeing it, that are calling it out. Hold on, I'll just show you this. We won't watch this video, but just to kind of corroborate that last statement I made, just to show you how people. Let me see, what was the guy's name? I always forget his name. Nate Valhalla. We're not going to watch it. Don't worry. I'll give you a break. I'll give you a break from him today. But just to show, yeah, here, I'll just show you this. So this is his thumbnail, right? This is his thumbnail. Kash Patel, arrow to Kash Patel, fucked up again. And again, this is not lefties, not progressives, not liberals, right? No, nobody with blue hair. These are fucking gun-toting, conservative, Republican, America First people that are making these videos. And again, they just cannot stand the incompetency of their own leadership. That's what this Kash Patel's FBI shits the bed again in Brown campus attack is the title to that video, right? And again, not a liberal, not a progressive, not a fucking, not a lefty by any stretch of the imagination. So, just to kind of let you know that it's not just us that are starting to notice it. But yeah, let's dive into this, because this is another short clip. We've been talking about how ridiculous it is on this show for the mainstream media, for anybody that talks about it, to reference what's going on between Israel and Gaza right now as a ceasefire, considering something like 400 Palestinians have now been killed since this ridiculous, again, non-existent ceasefire has been announced. And again, this is somebody that we've watched a long time. We brought one of her clips up when this fucking war first started going on, or when it was first determined that, when it was first determined by a lot of agencies that there was a genocide going on. The UN did an investigation. She was the UN special rapporteur to, the Israel and Palestine conflict. So she obviously has the knowledge and the know-how to come out with these different statements and stuff like that. But yeah, let me throw this on the screen. Oops, sorry. Let me throw this on the screen, because this is just a quick clip. I think it's only about 2 minutes long, where she's talking about this non-existent ceasefire and how asinine it is to even reference it, to call it that, right? It's fucking disrespectful to the English language. It's disrespectful to the definitions of words and how words are used to even reference what's going on there as a ceasefire. right? It's fucking ridiculous. That means words have no meaning whatsoever anymore if we're allowed to continue to reference this as a ceasefire, right? Ceasefire, not firing. If nobody was firing, then 400 Palestinians shouldn't have been killed since, right? So check this out. This is, again, just a quick clip to kind of, again, corroborate what we've been saying about this non-existent ceasefire from somebody much more knowledgeable, somebody that has much more prestige in a much higher position in an agency meant and tasked with tackling these specific topics.
The ceasefire is not precarious, is non-existent. Since the day the ceasefire was proclaimed, nearly 400 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli army in Gaza. Why are these people being killed? I'm telling you, because this is the genocide that continues through other means. Israel has zero intention to relinquish control of the Gaza Strip. So what has been sold to the world as the peace plan, which is nothing else than a 20-point thought bubble, as Commissioner Sidoti has defined it, is a way to push the international community to have an alibi not to continue to engage with Gaza. But Israel wants to continue the expulsion of Palestinians from there because this is the last attempt, the last chance they have to regain control over Gaza.
But isn't there some political progress? I mean, there is a process now towards phase 2, which is about creating...
Again, this is only a short, and I'm sure they had to cut it and splice it in a way to make it coherent for the short. But I'd like to hear the response that he has, this gentleman here, a British broadcaster, to the, again, 400 Palestinians that have been killed since this, again, non-existent ceasefire has been announced. I'd like to hear his response on that, and then how he goes from talking about that, acknowledging that, to, again, talking about phase 2 of the deal. How are we even in the remote possibility to speak about phase 2 when we're already talking about how phase 1 is a joke, how phase 1 is non-existent? Phase 1 has not even been undertaken yet accomplished yet, right? So I'd like to see how he responds to that one. And like I said, I fully acknowledge that this is a YouTube short, and they have to kind of cut it and splice it in a way to make it understandable in the time period that they have here. But I mean, it's just kind of. Where's my mouse? Where'd it go? Anybody? Hello? Where'd it go?
Creating a Palestinian committee with international supervision, with Palestinians involved. People are now starting to say it may actually have some representation from the Palestinian Authority, which was something that was said they said it wouldn't have before. So this is the beginning, once again, isn't it, of a Palestinian voice and Palestinian control over their own affairs.
Well,
I mean, isn't there a hopeful way to look at progress as well?
I don't want to sound like the grumpy one who's never happy about anything, because this is not the case. I'm just someone who knows the history. I mean, I've heard these arguments at the end of the first Intifada when the peace process started with the Oslo Accords. The Oslo Accords were saluted by everyone, including the Palestinians, as a stepping or a building block of enduring peace. Have you seen any day of that of peace for the Palestinians? No, because the word peace has been used to distract people from what was going on.
And she's right. She's right. The word ceasefire and the word peace are now being used to allow people to distract people away from, to make sure that their attention is not over there. They can kind of relinquish their attention, thinking that everything has kind of not been solved, but it's not as, it's not as bad as you were seeing before. That's kind of what they want to get everybody to believe, right? The more that they can use the word ceasefire, the more that they can use the word peace, the more that they can make it seem like they're going towards phase 2, the more that people can see, almost not breathe a sigh of relief, but that's kind of the hope, the intent that they're having, where people will avert their eyes from that area at least long enough to allow them to conduct whatever missions, whatever goals they still have left to accomplish without the international press, without the, the mainstream media getting all over it. Where there's less eyes, where there's less attention, there's more ways to kind of, do the backdoor dealings, get around the eyes of the media, so to speak. So again, that's kind of the ploy that I think has been kind of used here, the plan that has been used. Again, when Donald Trump is out there talking about a ceasefire, Benjamin Netanyahu, talking about a ceasefire, and everybody's talking about a peace plan and 20 points, 22 points, this and that, phase 3, phase 4. You know what I mean? Like it's had the effect of having people kind of almost say, okay, we don't need to pay as close attention as we once were to this area, to this conflict, because it seems like things have kind of, they're on their way to working themselves out, right? That's just, I believe, in my opinion, is the effect, is what they're hoping for in this instance by, again, telling the international community that, again, a peace deal has been reached, that a ceasefire agreement, the aid's getting in, where we played on a recent show, somebody actively living in Gaza for the last year saying that not even remotely enough aid is getting in. There is still an active blockade. There are no fucking, building equipment, not enough food, not enough anything getting in by any means. So just wanted to make sure that we continuously, bring this up, talk about it, make sure that people aren't kind of, again, averting their eyes, aren't turning their attention away to what is definitely still an ongoing international emergency and international disaster. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that we do our part here to continuously bring up, points that, we believe in, that we think are important, show our humanity here. But yeah, let's dive into, speaking of humanity or lack thereof, that's kind of another good segue into this next story that I wanted to talk about. And this led me to one of my more angry videos that I've done in a while. I put out a YouTube short. I put out the same video on TikTok and Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, check it out. But yeah, that was basically my thoughts in response to Donald Trump's egregious fucking comments about the brutal murders of Rob Reiner and his wife by their son. It was actually so egregious. Apparently TikTok found it too egregious and actually removed the video per guideline violations or whatever the fuck, even though I chose my words very, very carefully. And I said everything was going to be done by natural causes, and he deserves everything that happens to somebody that doesn't take care of himself like that. Never gave no actions, no threats, no nothing like that. I was very careful, very specific on what I said. So if you could do me a favor and check that out after the show, go check out the YouTube short. I think it's about 2 minutes. Very profanity laced, kind of straight from the cuff, right off my shoulder. I give that one. Definitely no filter. Definitely some blunt commentary on that one. So viewer discretion is advised. But still, like I said, I chose my words very carefully. But to be this sick, right? To be this demented and twisted, to be this big of a piece of shit is really fucking hard to accomplish, right? To be a piece of shit to an extent that even your own side, that is known for its degradation of human beings, that is known for its bigotry, its racism, its hatred of other individuals and other races. Even those people, or at least some of them, were so fucking taken aback, right? We're so, I want to say outraged, but we're so, I don't know, embarrassed and frustrated by these comments here that they actually spoke up about it, right? One of them being Piers Morgan. I have Piers Morgan here. And, after I read this little clip, we'll take a look at this one here from Piers Morgan, where even he goes on to slam Donald Trump. And then again, the hypocrisy, the absolute hypocrisy of the right going on this fucking long campaign of calling out leftists, of firing, calling their jobs and getting people fucking fired from their works and ruining them people's livelihoods because they didn't appropriately fucking cry or appropriately show passion or, fucking emotion when Charlie Kirk got murdered. They didn't like what they had to say in response. Right? They had a direct campaign, a widespread campaign of taking down people's lives. Yet the person that they most support coming out in this time, and again, Charlie Kirk, a divisive political figure, had divisive political commentary, was very well-known, popular, supported a not popular candidate, right? Somebody that put himself in the political spotlight, the political limelight. Somebody that did that for a career. Rob Reiner, somebody who had comments about politics on different areas of politics, absolutely. But somebody that in no way was a political figure, right? And again, just to kind of read for anybody that didn't kind of read this fucking nonsense Donald Trump went on to say, and again, this is about the brutal death of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle the other day. This is the president of the United States. And again, you can have all the opinions you want about maybe my response. You can have all the opinions you want about fucking, maybe other political podcasters and their response, whatever the fuck, that's fine. But I should not be held to the same standard as the president of the United States, okay? I will absolutely take your comments and I will listen to them and I will fucking take them in my mind and think about them and absolutely try to put them, take them to heart and put them into practice. But in no way, we should all be able to agree that the president of the United States, with the more power you have, the more prestige you have, the more responsibility comes with that. And nobody in this fucking planet, nobody on this planet, or especially in this country, has more power than the president of the United States. Therefore, nobody has more responsibility than the president of the United States. So he should be held to the highest standard, put on the biggest pedestal as far as respectfulness, as far as, empathy, compassion for the American people, even if they don't agree with his politics. So say what you want about me, but I can tell you right now that I'm not fucking the president of the United States, nor should I be held to the same standard. And we can all agree that the president, regardless of what side they're on, should be held to that fucking standard. Now, keeping that in mind, this is what he said. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Which, again, even by the right, I'm telling you, people even as fucking, low as Piers Morgan and others, many others. This is just kind of the one example that I had to show you here, the most visible example, just using somebody on the, somebody more prominent, somebody well-known to get the message across. But yeah, let me throw this on the screen, because even their own side saw through how fucking gross this was, saw through how just egregious this was at the time, knowing what happened, knowing who committed the crime, knowing that it was a family affair, knowing how, fucking brutal the crimes were. And then trying to relate this to politics, trying to relate this to, anything that he said in the past about Donald Trump. And yes, there are absolutely people on the right side trying to justify Donald Trump's comments, trying to openly mock the murder of Rob Reiner. Absolutely. That's to be expected. We know these people. We know what they are. There's no guesswork involved anymore. We don't have to say, I wonder how they're going to react to this. We know how they're going to react, which is why the surprising thing is to see people call Donald Trump out, which is, exactly what Piers Morgan did here. So let's check out this clip. Piers Morgan's on with Cenk. What's her name? Jillian Michaels. Let's see here. I'm not sure. Roland Martin down in here. I'm not sure who this is. And I'm blanking on my main man on the left. I should know his name, but I don't. I apologize. I forget right now.
Donald Trump has just posted this. A very sad.
He's on Zateo, right? Why? Waj Ali? Is that Waj Ali? Yeah. All right. Just takes me a second. I've had multiple concussions in my life. Give me a break. Takes me a second sometimes.
Thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump. With his
I'm not 100% sure, Rachel. Rachel said, who's the blonde lady? I know she's a Trumper. That I do know. She's definitely a Republican on the right side of things. I've seen her before. Does anybody else know who that is? The blonde lady on the bottom. Anybody? I'm not familiar with her. I know I have seen her before. I know she's on the right side of things, but I'm just not familiar with her with her name.
obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. You know, I got to say, Cenk, that just crosses every line of just basic human decency to me. Yeah, Rob Reiner was murdered last night by his troubled, unhinged son. And to make political capital, and what angers me about it is there was all the outrage from Trump supporters, rightly, when the left mocked Charlie Kirk after he was murdered.
And again, say what you want about Piers Morgan, and we could spend all day and probably multiple days saying those things. Point out what you want to point out about him. Absolutely paving the way for Donald Trump, not only in the first administration, but the second administration, and forgiving and excusing and defending some of the things, if not all of the things that he's done. Absolutely. But I don't think you can really kind of disagree with what he says here, right? Where it's just basic human decency that this lacks. It just shows a blatant and obvious lack of human decency, of fucking empathy, of compassion, of a soul, of a heart. Right. And again, him pointing out the blatant hypocrisy. And again, we can have all the conversations you want about whether or not the reaction by the left on the whole was in any way relatable to what's going on here, or the words of Donald Trump. That's a discussion we can have for another day. But I think we can all agree in the hypocrisy from the right of going through what they went through and calling out people for their reaction to what they saw as a brutal death, obviously of one of their own, of somebody that they looked up to or admired or whatever it was. And now the roles kind of reversed, not in the same exact way, but to an extent, right? They're now the first people on the bandwagon, or Donald Trump leading the bandwagon of people fucking out there dehumanizing people that literally just had their throat slit by their fucking, by their son who struggles with addiction. You know what I mean? So again, the blatant and utter and obvious hypocrisy of it, not lost on even people like Piers Morgan, who for quite some time now has been absolutely more than willing to defend, excuse, and run cover for Donald Trump in a lot of different fucking areas. So again, as we continue to talk about how people are more willing to walk away from Trump, walk away from MAGA, or if not walk away, call him out, right? This is just kind of another example, another area in which we're seeing that. And again, whether that's people flocking to, Nick Fuentes' America First movement, or just away from MAGA in general, or just pissed off from the Epstein files, or pissed off because Donald Trump's coddling up to Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, or whatever it may be. Right? I mean, it's pretty clear to see that it's becoming more and more apparent. It's becoming more and more evident and more frequent that we're seeing people speak out. I think even recently, if I'm not mistaken, unless it was an old clip, forgive me if I was kind of had by an old clip, but I think this morning saw Candace Owens on with Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan was questioning her about her support of Donald Trump, and she says basically he's been a fraud, right? I'm paraphrasing, but basically he's been a big, huge disappointment. And she's kind of ashamed that she once told people to vote for him. I mean, again, that's Candace Owens now getting 5 million views per fucking video that she's putting out, per live, per show, whatever she does, right? That's definitely somebody that has a lot of sway, or at least a lot of people watching, a lot of eyes on, listening to what she has to say. And she's saying things like that on another prominent show like Piers Morgan, something that you wouldn't have heard just, not that long ago, right? So again, we continue because he goes on to now question Jillian Michaels, another, Trump adjacent acolyte, Republican herself, somebody more than willing to excuse the bigotry, racism, and hatred of the right, even though she's a gay woman herself. But yeah, let's listen to what both Piers finishes off with, and then he passes it to Jillian, who again repeats and expresses the very same sentiment that Piers Morgan does. She is pretty much appalled with the statement, appalled with the comments of Donald Trump as well.
And I thought we'd reached a kind of consensus that this, whatever side of the divide you're on, this is just unacceptable. That when people get murdered, you just show basic respect. And it's just happened as we came on air. And I just thought we've got to start with this, because when you're the most powerful man in the world, listen, everyone knows I've known Trump a long time, but this is one of those times when many times he's been like this, when big public figures have died. I remember it with John McCain. I remember it with Colin Powell. And each time I just wince at the lack of basic decency.
But yet you continuously flock back to his side. You continuously defend and fucking run cover for everything else that he does. Like, when are these people? When do you fucking finally draw the line in the sand and say, listen, no more can I defend a man that is so void of human nature, so void of empathy and compassion, so void of a soul, right? So void of decency or knowing what's right and wrong, right? How can you, I don't care, even if you do like some of the policies and some of the shit, wouldn't it come to a point, wouldn't it come to a head where you say, enough is enough, I'm done, I'm out, I'm sorry, forget about it, similar to the way Lindsey Graham did after January 6th, but then got himself right back in after the MAGA base was chasing him around airport to airport, threatening his life, right? He got light in the loafers real fucking quick after that January 6th action. But when will you draw the line in the sand? Where is the line in the sand? Right? Because Piers Morgan here just says this is now several times now in which somebody prominent has died, and Donald Trump has come out to dehumanize, in the most disrespectful way possible as a prominent figure, politician, and president of the United States. Like, at what point is it too much? Right? If it wasn't the Epstein files, right? If it wasn't, grabbing women by the pussy when they don't fucking give you consent because you're a star and they let you do it. If it wasn't January 6th and the overthrow of our fucking government, right? Is it what is it? What is it? Nothing. There's just absolutely nothing possible, because you're sitting here calling it out, but it doesn't seem to be registering. It doesn't seem to stick around for very long in your head. You don't seem to remember these instances when going in and again supporting and defending or voting for these people. Fucking crazy. Unfucking believable. But here's Jillian Michaels.
Nobody's celebrating Rob Reiner's death. I hope, as Jillian said,
well, it sounds like Donald.
Wait, what happened? Did I skip Jillian? What the fuck happened? What did she already speak? what happened?
Obsession of President Donald J. Trump to me. Yeah, Rob.
I know she had something to say.
I'm not justifying it.
My apologies. What's going on? Well, anyways, what she says is she pretty much concurs with. This is literally just the video I watched. How the hell is that point not in there now? What happened? This is what happens. I pick out a video, I watch something, I'm like, oh, I'm going to play that. And then I go play that same exact video, and the part that I wanted to play and show you just is no longer in the video. It's just not there. Anyways, but she concurs. She says the blonde doesn't. The blonde tries to excuse it, on the other side of things. But Jillian Michaels absolutely does say she concurs and says she has the same sentiment as Piers Morgan on this, and says that it was wrong for him to say. I apologize. I don't know where her part in this went, unless I just pulled up the wrong clip or something like that, which I know I didn't because I only saw one. But anyways, that you kind of get the idea. You get the sentiment just from hearing Piers Morgan. And then again, if you have the time, don't worry, you can go back and watch. You can check that out. But believe me, Jillian Michaels absolutely is on the same side of Piers Morgan. Meanwhile, the blonde chick the blonde lady, the blonde girl, whatever you want to call her, on the bottom row is in support of Donald Trump in his statements. But all right, along the same lines here, I wanted to show you this I've Had It, the I've Had It podcast clip, because they talk about Mike Johnson's, and we're not going to dive into too much of this, but they play where Mike Johnson was questioned about Donald Trump's statements about Rob Reiner and his wife. And again, once again, Mike Johnson doing this, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't comment on everything. I don't know everything, right? Bullshit, where he's just an absolute fucking pussy, just a bitch at every fucking turn is Mike Johnson, right? Just the total and complete inability to call out Donald Trump on anything. Nothing, just nothing to stand on. No balls whatsoever to stand on. But yeah, this is just a couple minutes because I just wanted to show you. I think it's in the first minute or two that they show the question here posed to MAGA Mike Johnson, and him once again weaseling his way out of calling out Donald Trump for what he knows is absolutely wrong, right? So let's dive into just a minute or two of this.
Tragedies have struck all over the world. We have the terror attack in Australia, the shooting at Brown University, the horrific double murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, The president of the United States, of course, is completely out to lunch, zero empathy, a total psychopath. It is on full display. Even Fox News pumps. I saw some critiques from them.
Really?
But yesterday we did a live and Pumps was opining. What will Moses Mike and others say and do? And I have some video of Moses Mike walking through the halls of Congress, press in tow, questioning the born-again Christian man of faith about the president's heartless, cruel, and diabolical statements regarding Rob Reiner.
Mr. Speaker, did you see you condemn Trump's post about Rob? What are your thoughts about what President Trump said about Rob Reiner at his press conference today?
I don't do ongoing commentary about everything that's said by everybody in government every day. We are trying to bring down healthcare costs for the American people.
It's amazing that he's either never seen, hasn't fucking been to the committee meetings. He, didn't get to see the report, never saw the article. Oh, never heard that statement. That's a quote that I've never heard. It's funny how he's so uninformed. He doesn't know a fucking thing about anything that's going on that may give him the ability to criticize Donald Trump. Just nothing whatsoever. Everything else he knows about. If it's about the Democrats, if it's about Zoran Mamdani, if it's about fucking, Schumer or anybody else, don't get me started on that one. Fucking Christ. Chuck Schumer coming out and saying, "Go Bills," at the press conference just before he's talking about the Australia. I mean, what are we doing here, people? What are we doing here? And aside, so that's for a different show. But I mean, MAGA Mike Johnson never ceases to amaze me. And the reporters that allow him to get away with this never cease to amaze me. And when they're like, okay, can you just once call him out for being like, Mike, come on, dude. There's just nobody on earth right now that doesn't know about these comments, that doesn't know what Donald Trump said in response to this and can't give their kind of, statement on what they believe or what they see this response kind of, details and means, right? But nope, Mike Johnson's never seen it, never heard of it, hasn't seen the clip. Fucking he sits home and just kind of deletes porn websites with his son. As soon as he gets home from work, that's what they're doing. They're going and fucking checking the dark web for porn websites, and they're calling up different agencies to report them, to get them taken down. Apparently, they look up no news. He has no social media. He has no fucking assistants or people working on his staff to fucking inform him about anything. Nothing. Every single time Donald Trump does something illegal, does something corrupt, steals from the American people, starts a new war, kills somebody illegally, Mike Johnson's never heard of it. Doesn't know a fucking thing you're talking about. But healthcare that they haven't come up with yet.
They're very important votes, very important issues, and that's what we're focused on. I gave commentary this morning, and you all heard it.
Just a weaselly, pathetic little fucking monkey that guy is. Just a little fucking pathetic little piece of shit, dangly little dingleberry hanging on to the asshole of Donald Trump is this guy, MAGA Mike Johnson. What he must smell like every day he gets home is just too much for me to bear. Too much for me to bear. I don't even know if I can think it. Don't even know if I can think it. But you know what? Let me see here. No, I won't. I'll avoid that one. But let's jump into this next topic here. Actually, no, let's go on to see I want to see what these ladies have to say about his response, and then we'll dive into the next topic, which is Susie Wiles and her interview talking about Donald Trump's alcoholic personality and everybody else in the administration. So we'll be diving into that next. All right, but yeah, let's just check out. I want to see their response to Mike's comments here.
You know what he is? He's a pussy and a coward. He can't even say, I disagree, nothing, because he has absolutely collapsed morally. I mean, stand on your Bible and tell us you're Moses while you cannot condemn those kind of comments, while you sit back with your balls in Trump's first desk drawer and do nothing. What a pathetic man.
I just think it's fascinating as we move past the Trump regime, which I think it's kind of starting. You see massive fissures all over this administration, and the people who have.
Well, I want to don't get ahead of our skis. We still have fucking a long time to go. Unfortunately. But let's dive into, possibly, that rift that she was talking about here, and a little bit more insight into that, because apparently Susie Wiles is not too happy with the way her interview is now being represented. Apparently, she thinks it's now been a hit piece. But, you know, what she said is what she said. But here's a CNN, let's see a quick CNN clip talking about Susie Wiles says Trump has, quote, an alcoholic's personality and much more in candid interviews. Right. So let me just see if I can throw this on the screen, make this a little bigger. Let's see if we can get any more insight here from Susie Wiles and what she had to say. Check this out.
This just in, a revealing new interview with really the most powerful person in President Trump's White House beyond him, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, commenting and going there on a wide range of topics, it seems, with Vanity Fair in a new series of interviews, from the handling of the Epstein investigation to her assessment of the big names on Donald Trump's team. Let's get to CNN's Elena Treen, who is at the White House. There seems to be a lot in there, Elena. What is your big takeaway?
I mean, look, I've covered the president, and I've also covered Susie Wiles for years now, Kate, and this is one of the most candid interviews and stories that she's offered, interviews she's offered really from the entire time I've done that. This is incredibly candid, some of the things that she was admitting, because I will tell you too, Wiles is someone who often likes to operate kind of in the shadows and quietly. She doesn't like to draw attention to herself. And that's why I think some of what people are waking up and reading this morning is so stunning to hear about. But let me get into.
And I think one of the more telling and one of the more, I think, wild revelations in this is like the fact that Susie Wiles was basically, she saw the need to have to stop Donald Trump from political retribution, but she also allotted him like 9 months, I think it was. Like she gave him 9 months to basically, you know, attack and seek political retribution against anybody he wanted. But after those 9 months, he kind of had to, Sorry. My apologies. For some reason, there's one button on the side of my mouse that it's like it's like my escape hatch, I think. It's like a built-in escape hatch for my podcast, where if I find myself in like, really hot water and a big predicament, it's kind of like my, it's like the button like you get where you say something stupid and it automatically shuts you off. I don't know. For some reason, that's that one button. If I touch it, it's like, okay, you're done, pal. You're done. But let me throw this back on the screen. My apologies. I'm back. Yeah, exactly. It's the nudity button. Yeah, right. In case any nudity pops up, or I guess if I'm covering any Ukraine frontline imagery or something like that, and something bloody, something like that, I can hit that. It's like my quick escape hatch. But my apologies, I hit the wrong button. But anyways, I'll let this play. I forget what I was saying.
Some of the main things that I found very notable.
That's what I was saying. Excuse me. That Susie Wiles gave Donald Trump basically 9 months to seek political retribution, which is wild considering what we're seeing, right? And what we have seen. Like for her to come out and say, yes, I gave him 9 months, and then to go on and see the prosecutions against James Comey, Letitia James, you name it. And there's been several, Brennan, you name it. There's a bunch of them in there as well. And they're still trying to seek that political retribution against other people. And it continues. And we're, again, past 9 months, just to kind of give you a time frame. And Donald Trump doesn't seem to be kind of, steering away from that political retribution aspect anytime soon. But for Susie Wiles, Donald Trump's chief of staff, in an interview to be like, yes, he definitely came in wanting to seek political retribution. We all warned of it. We all told you. But everybody else said was, oh, don't worry. That's ridiculous. Donald Trump would never do that. Well, apparently it got to the point where Susie Wiles literally had to have like an agreement with Donald Trump to say, okay, in your first 9 months, I'll give you that. I'll help you. I'll support you in your political retribution. But after that, we kind of have to give it up, right? That's just one of the more wild things to come out of this. But there are several other things. So she talks about J.D. Vance. Let's see here. I'll pull up because I know. Let me see if I can pull this up as well. My apologies. But I'm going to go to Blue Sky real quick because I think Mel had a good post on this. She kind of wrapped this up, which summarized this pretty good. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Give me a second. Give me 1 second, and I'll put this on the screen. Yeah, right here. So let me share this tab instead. So this is Mel, obviously, producer Mel. And she says, Trump, alcoholics personality, Vance, conspiracy theorist, Bondi, whiffed on Epstein, Vought, right-wing zealot, and Musk, avowed ketamine user. All things Susie Wiles apparently said in these interviews, right? I mean, let's see. Yeah, what was the other one? Yeah, this was by the Tennessee Holler. It says translation whoopsie, and this is from Susie Wiles, where she kind of tries to combat the narrative, so to speak. And she says the article. Let me see if you can see this. Yeah, you can see it. The article published early this morning is a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. Significant context was disregarded, and much of what I and others said about the team and the president was left out of the story. I assume after reading it, this was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. The truth is, the Trump White House has already accomplished more in 11 months than any other president has accomplished in 8 years, and that is due to the unmatched leadership and vision of President Trump, for whom I have been honored to work for the better part of a decade. None of this will stop our relentless pursuit of yada, yada, yada. Obviously, she's worried about Donald Trump seeing the comments, the quotes here, and kind of the retribution that she might see from that. So she's trying to get ahead of the story. But yeah, let's dive back into it and see what else we can kind of gain from this.
From what Chris Whipple, who works with Vanity Fair, detailed from their conversations. One is that Wiles referred to President Trump as someone having a, quote, alcoholic personality. She also talked a lot about the vice president, J.D. Vance, someone who I should...
So it says here in the article, from the Vanity Fair article itself, it says, Susie Wiles, J.D. Vance, and the Junkyard Dogs, the White House Chief of Staff on Trump's second term, part 1 of 2, by Chris Whipple. It says, quote, Trump, she told me, has an alcoholic's personality. Vance's conversation from never Trumper to MAGA acolyte, she said, has been sort of political. The vice president, she added, has been, and it goes on.
Note, had this conversion that Whipple noted as well from never Trumper to a MAGA acolyte. Susie Wiles essentially said that change, that conversion has been, quote, sort of political. And she said the vice president.
Now, is she noticing Peter Thiel's actions in this? Peter Thiel's, involvement in this? Is there more behind the scenes that, like we've been saying here on the left, to J.D. Vance's complete 180 from Donald Trump is the American Hitler, the Hitler of the United States, or whatever he said about Donald Trump previously, to, what he says now about Donald Trump being the best and greatest president, just so he could now slip into vice president? I mean, it's worth asking. Does Susie Wiles know something? Does Susie Wiles, does she know something about what's going on behind the scenes?
Has been a, quote, conspiracy theorist for a decade. She also talked about Russell Vought. He is the White House budget chief, but he's also, of course, one of the architects of that notorious Project 2025 conservative blueprint for the future of our Republican Party, something that Trump had previously, of course, disavowed. She argued that Vought
Now, what the hell is the context for this? What is the context for calling Russell Vought a, quote, right-wing absolute zealot? Right, the architect of Project 2025, if not arguably one of the most destructive pieces of not legislation, but pieces of fucking writing ever to grace the fucking, the American way of politics, right? Project 2025, which a lot of it has clearly already been implemented, a lot of it clearly trying to be implemented still. What we all warned about, what everybody was talking about in lead up to the election, right? The guy that fucking architected that and described as a right-wing absolute zealot. What is the context, Susie Wiles, that was left out? I'm kind of curious as to what possibly could have been left out of that part of the part of the interview that would have made that sentence sound or appear any better or any different than what it's coming across as.
A right-wing absolute zealot. And then she also went to a number of different things. One, she talked about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, someone who was one of her closest friends, I should note, in this administration. She argued that Bondi, quote, completely whiffed the handling of the Epstein file. She also talked about how...
I mean, that's pretty clear, too. What's the context there? What's the context there, Susie? I mean, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it because I didn't see you directly combat the specific statements made in this, so-called report, so-called, article here by Vanity Fair. What I saw was kind of bullshit propaganda where you sounded really upset and really scared that Donald Trump or somebody else in the administration could see and take this the wrong way. And maybe your ass might be grass and he's a lawnmower, right? Maybe you might be in some fucking jeopardy. But I'm just, I didn't hear any specific complaints. I didn't hear anything specifically called out or any context specifically added to any of the quotes to make them make sense. I'm just curious as to how this one, how does this one make sense? No, sorry. Will you say that Pam Bondi whiffed on the Epstein files? Because there's only one. Whiff means you swung and you missed there, kid. You swung and you missed. You can't tell me that whiffed all of a sudden means something else. You're not going to change what the fucking meaning of the word is or what the slang meaning of the word, whatever. You're not going to change around. She whiffed. She swung and she missed. So what does that mean? What does that mean? She didn't hide them well, right? She didn't hide them well enough. She didn't do this, to make it go away quick enough, or right? Was she mad that she told everybody that the fucking files were on her desk and then she had to retract the statement? What's going on here? Sounds like there's some dissension in the team, right? Some dissension among the ranks. Doesn't seem like they're all very happy the way that they come out and continuously say they are, and they praise everybody for their amazing work when they talk about, when they're at these little, the cabinet meetings that they're at. Sounds like behind the scenes, quite like what Marjorie Taylor Greene was bringing up, the way that they speak about Donald Trump in public compared to the way that they speak about Donald Trump behind the scenes, right? Sounds like a similar situation here. Yes, everything's hunky, everything's great and perfect, and we all getting along, and we're all kissing and hugging behind the scenes. But when you go behind the scenes, sounds like an awful different story.
The handling of the Epstein files. She also talked about how the president, who came in and offered a series of pardons to really roughly 1,000 people who were convicted for their crimes on January 6th, she essentially admitted that she had urged the president not to pardon those who had committed violent crimes on January 6th and on the Capitol attack. She also talked about how she disagreed with him sometimes when it came to tariffs, saying that she had urged him to delay some of the tariffs that he ultimately announced. And it goes on. There's a lot of other areas where she kind of talks about kind of disagreeing with him, but also ultimately her role is as a facilitator rather than, past White House chiefs that we've seen, notably people like John Kelly during the president's first administration, who at times tried to hold him back. She sees as her job trying to kind of shape what he does, but also not preventing him from doing what he wants to do. One very notable quote as well that stuck out to me, just given the context of what's very much in the news right now, is Venezuela. She admitted publicly that one of the goals of this administration and the president is actually to see regime change in Venezuela and oust Nicolas Maduro. I should note that is not what the White House line has been on this. The White House line has been that this is all about trying to crack down on narco terrorists and illegal drug trafficking. She essentially said this on Venezuela. She said, quote, "He wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle. And people way smarter than me on that say that he will." Again,
now that's fucking strange, because again, much like she just said, that is completely antithetical to what the White House, to what the communications teams, to what their fucking, their message is, to what their plan is, or at least what they're telling the American people their plan is in this area. Right? Sounds like Susie Wiles was talking very candidly and open about what's going on. And now she's not too happy that information got out, or the way that's going to look to Donald Trump, or when he sees this. Because, that's pretty much exactly the way everybody else is seeing it, right? That's exactly what everybody else is talking about. It's not what the White House is talking about, but it is what she said here to Vanity Fair, apparently.
Again, a major contradiction in what we've heard from the White House on all of this. And the last thing I just want to quickly point you to, there's a lot in this. I do encourage our audience to actually go and read these very lengthy and detailed articles from Vanity Fair. But she talked about retribution, and she said that she had some sort of agreement with the president that she didn't want him to be focused on score settling, that she was going to give him 90 days and then he kind of had to move on.
Oh, excuse me. My apologies. I said 9 months. I was mistaken. It was 90 days. 90 days, right? So Susie Wiles, the chief of staff to the president, had to allot him a time period, a time frame of 90 days to enact his political retribution. And, I don't know if it states when that 90 days was supposed to start, but if we're talking about 90 days from the beginning of his term, his second term, then it was well past that when we were still seeing ongoing investigations being launched against his political opponents, or people that had, negative things to say about him that may have even been on his team or cabinet once in the past. Right. So again, much later than 90 days, we continuously see political retribution being sought by this administration, which goes to tell me that Susie Wiles doesn't have any of the power, any of the control that she thinks she has. Right. So, it's pretty much, I don't know why she'd say that, because it makes her look bad above and beyond anybody else when she's talking about the tariffs. She doesn't like the tariffs and tell them she didn't win on that battle. Like, it seems like there's a lot of fronts in this that she has, differing opinions, differing views, but she's losing out every single time. She's not winning the battle, or at least stepping up and speaking up loud enough to even attempt to sway the decision-making process. You know what I mean?
From it. But she also acknowledged that some of the recent indictments we've seen against some of the president's political foes, people like the former FBI director James Comey or the New York Attorney General Letitia James, both people who we've seen this Trump administration now bring indictments against. She admitted that, yeah, that kind of is political. She said the Letitia.
What was she on, fucking truth serum? What, did somebody give her a shot of truth serum before she went into this interview? What the fuck is going on? Like, I'm just getting like True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the scene where he's hitting with the truth serum and he just, that's all I can get. Like, what is going on here? Like, everything that the White House is saying, the chief of staff now just kind of said the complete opposite to Vanity Fair. She kind of corroborated and confirmed what everybody else was thinking in terms of J.D. Vance's, political maneuvering and his switch from a never Trumper to, now fucking the biggest MAGA supporter you could possibly think of. I mean, the list goes on, talking about Donald Trump's personality like he's an alcoholic. I mean, what did somebody inject her with something? I don't know. Did Doc Ronnie, did the fucking pill doctor, the White House pill doctor, get the pills wrong before this interview? I'm not sure. I don't know. Just asking questions, folks. Just asking questions. But again, I would definitely advise and suggest anybody with the time or the inclination to do so, check out that Vanity Fair article. There's a lot in it. It's like I said, there's too much to cover on one show or in one clip, but definitely if you have the time and the inclination, check that out. Gives pretty good insights into what Susie Wiles actually thinks of the people that she's serving with, actually thinks of the people in this administration. And it's pretty wild to hear, considering if you place that against what we've heard publicly, then, it's a pretty big juxtaposition. It's a pretty big distinction between the two. But yeah, what do you say? We move on? Let me just throw this up there as well. Give me a second. I'm going to throw this up there as well, because we're going to be talking about Ukraine and Kupyansk, right? And the Russian propaganda, and remember how on last show I was telling you that on the Telegram channels, there was a lot of people suggesting that it was a green screen or some sort of fake video that Zelensky had from Kupyansk. We're also going to be talking about the drone strikes to the Russian sub, because this is pretty major. This is a pretty big attack seen here. I'll throw this on the screen. This is a pretty big attack, and there's video coming from that. And now, again, there's another video that I want to take a look at. It might have even been 2 Russian submarines that were damaged in this attack. Again, $400-500 million submarines attacked by a Ukrainian sea drone, and video of that. So we'll definitely be taking a look at that. But let's dive into this first, where the professor explains the Russian propagandists and their logic in trying to tie themselves into knots over whether or not Zelensky was actually in Kupyansk and what that means about what they were previously told by Gerasimov, how they were previously lied to by their own military, by their own government, about not only Kupyansk, but also the Pokrovsk area. I mean, we've been talking about that endlessly on this show. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I appreciate you guys for not only being so involved in what's taking place in our own country and how we can better our own country, but also the humanitarian side of what's taking place, all throughout the globe, and how we need to continuously speak out against these atrocious acts that are, again, happening in broad daylight right in front of our faces. And I'll be fucking goddamned if I sit on the sidelines and I don't report on it for this, that, or another reason. So again, I will continuously speak out for any peoples that I see need to be spoken out for, that may not have the voice or the people or the amount of support that they should have doing it for them. So again, I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Big supporters of the people of Ukraine, the Ukrainian military, and Volodymyr Zelensky. We are totally and 100% against Russia and everything they stand for, and we will be here to support not only the Ukrainian people, the Palestinian people, and anybody else around the world now seeing themselves on the opposite end of a fight against authoritarians, dictators, fascists, whatever it may be. So again, that's what we're here for, and that's what we hope to continue to do here on Blunt Politics. And we thank you guys for sticking with me. I really do. All right, let's dive into this. This is, again, Professor explaining the Russian propaganda. And as we normally do, we're going to kind of go back and forth. We'll graze through this. We'll catch a couple clips. And then, like I said, I want to dive into this footage of the drone strike on the Russian sub. You guys aren't going to want to miss that. Check it out. Let's go.
Up 1 mile from the battle. It's just amazing. Today is Monday.
Sorry, my apologies. Let me start that right from the beginning.
So Russian propagandists are twisting themselves into pretzels, trying to explain away Zelensky showing up 1 mile from the battle. It's just amazing. Today is Monday, December 15th. Zelensky showed up on the 12th in front of this sign in Kupyansk, and they're saying, no, that didn't really happen. Let's start here. This is Bernard Henry Levy saying, an image of Zelensky the day before yesterday at the entrance to Kupyansk. This is what heroism is. This is what Ukrainians mean when they say Heroyam Slava. And then the propagandists are trying to explain it away. First one I saw was Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter saying Zelensky at Kupyansk is one of the greatest psychological operations imaginable. He sacrificed thousands of men for a photo op and then turned it into a viral meme seeking to resurrect.
And again, Scott Ritter, American. Oh, geez, in case you guys aren't familiar with Scott Ritter, let's just do this real quick, just in case, so you can get some insights into who this fucking degenerate piece of shit is. All right, share this. Scott Ritter was a former United States Marine Corps intelligence officer from the former United Nations Special Commission weapons inspector. But yeah, he's got some problems because Ritter was the subject of 2 law enforcement sting operations in 2001. He was charged in June 2001 with trying to set up a meeting with an undercover police officer posing as a 16-year-old girl. Yep, that's him. He was charged with a misdemeanor crime and attempted endangerment of a welfare of a child. The charge was dismissed and the record was sealed after he completed 6 months of pretrial probation. Ritter suggested at the time that the case, which coincided with his prominent dissent against the buildup of the Iraq War and was a smear campaign, right? But then Ritter was arrested again in 2009 over communications with the police decoy he met on the internet chat site. Police said that he exposed himself via webcam after the officer repeatedly identified himself as a 15-year-old girl. The next month, Ritter waived his right to a preliminary hearing and was released on $25,000 unsecured bail. Let's see here. He was charged with unlawful contact with a minor, criminal use of communications facility, corruptions of a minor, indecent exposure, possessing instruments of a crime, criminal attempt and criminal solicitation. He rejected a plea deal and was found guilty of all but the criminal attempt count in county court in Rochester, New York, April 2011. In 2011, he was sentenced to 1.5 to 5 years in prison. He was sent to Laurel Heights and state prisons in Somerset County, Pennsylvania in March 12th and paroled in September. Let's see here. In June 24, they seized his passport and prevented him from visiting Russia. According to Ritter, 3 U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents stopped him. He was about to board a flight to Istanbul, going to St. Petersburg. And I do believe he's been in Russia ever since. Let's see here. Let's see. Ritter was removed from the flight from speaking in Russian as part of the Frenzies campaign. It's from establishing at least some contacts in Russia. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe he still resides in Russia, unless that's changed. Because I know he went there, which again, we all know that there's probably no correlation, no connection between his, child diddling, what he's been accused and convicted of here in the United States, and basically, the allowance and the perpetuance of that inside of Russia and how they kind of, I don't know, maybe look the other way if you're, again, maybe feeding them some good information, or if you're willing to do the propaganda of the Russians, you know what I mean? But again, let me see if you guys know, is he still in? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely he is. Absolutely. But is he still in Russia? Because this Wikipedia not that because it doesn't say it doesn't mean he isn't, but I thought that they would kind of make it a point to say that. Somebody says yes. Eric says yes. I believe he is, if I'm not mistaken. Until I'm hearing otherwise, I am going with the fact that he is still inside of Russia doing the bidding and the propaganda of the Russian government. And again, that's a little bit about his background, just in case you wonder who Scott Ritter is when you're hearing or seeing anything that, some of these commentators or creators are talking about. A lot of people will use his, tweets or his statements, whatever, as, evidence to suggest the Russian propaganda. So basically it's a good example to use of American doing Russian propaganda in its blatant form. So that's why a lot of people tend to use his words against him.
The new Churchill narrative. 40 days from now, when the families of the fallen Ukrainian soldiers finalize their mourning and Russia has continued its advance, you should reflect on the cruelty of your actions. Okay, that's not what was going on. He was actually there, just like he was there very close to the front line on previous occasions. Okay, let's see who else says what. Now I'm showing.
And this was the same photo that the Russian state media, remember we played on the show, the Russian state propaganda, that showed this, but they never really explained why they were showing it or what the circles meant or whatever the hell was going on here. But let's see if there's more explanation that we can find from this that's come out since.
This image here. See how the bottom is blown out of the Kupyansk sign? Okay. Che Bao says, a day after Zelensky's heroic video on the far edge of Kupyansk, the Russians sent a recon drone to the exact spot. The actor filmed his heroic scene long before yesterday.
And this is a guy here, the Che Bose. I'm not familiar with him, but I've been seeing a lot of his shit pop up when kind of trying to do, the appropriate research or trying to find different tweets and stuff like that. Like fucking it is. Like the pro-Russia aspect of Twitter has grown exponentially, since I've removed myself pretty much from that platform, besides, like I said, trying to find different tweets from different people or, looking up different, aspects to the news that are only kind of reported through their Twitter accounts, that type of thing. But, as soon as you pop on there, this guy's always up there with the fucking most pro-Putin shit you could possibly put on, the most pro-Russia shit you could possibly put on Twitter, right? So I'm not familiar with what his background is, who the hell he is, or why he's so pro-Russia, but he's definitely one of the more prominent ones that I've seen kind of making its way, onto the front pages, so to speak, of the pro-Russia side of Twitter.
Exact spot. The actor filmed his heroic scene long before yesterday. He's a fraud. So are you saying that he knew that he was going to the Russians were going to take Kupyansk and then he was going to have something canned so that he could say, we've pushed them out? I mean,
that's the same, right? Same exact point that I made on the show. Same exact point. Again, even if you want to say that he filmed it at an earlier date, how the hell did he know what the situation was going to be? How to accurately describe what was going on that specific day, at that specific time, in that specific sector? Right? Like, how possibly could that have happened? Please do explain that one to me, right? I understand you could possibly do it at a different date and have it set up, but how, and do like some generic broadcast, but he's speaking very specifically about the plight of the Ukrainians in that area, how they continue to fight, how they're not going to how they're holding strong, right? Directly talking about what's having to do with it up to the date, up to the minute in that area. So it's just like, makes no sense to say that it would, like, how can you explain that part?
That's pretty far-sighted if that's the case. So here's the sign, and here's the blown out part of the sign. Again, Jackson Hinkle saying the same thing, breaking Zelensky, busted lying again. The video Zelensky published is old. He recorded it months ago and kept it waiting for the right moment. One, how do you know that? Right. And two, no, there's a big problem here. And I'll show you the problem in a moment. A drone filmed how the scene looks now. It's different. But Jackson Hinkle and Che Baus and multiple others will just repackage this nonsense. This is Andrew Perpetua talking about what happened, laughing my butt off. The Russians hit the sign with a drone, and then while showing the sign on the ground, tried to say that the sign isn't there anymore. That means Zelensky lied. You have to fall on your head 1,000 times to have Russian propaganda work on you. But
this is crazy, lady. Just think of what they're trying to say here. And again, this is, I don't know if that's confirmed or just speculation, but it's absolutely not out of the realm of possibility or the realm of what we know the Russians are capable of in order to try to get through on their propaganda. Right. So they know if they can go there, if they went there with the drone, right, after Zelensky had done his filming, after that was all done, they could go there with the drone. Right. And if they strike that sign, if they change how that sign looks, right, then they can take a picture of that sign afterwards and say, hey, the sign that Zelensky was behind, it looks like this now. It doesn't look like it looked, when he was taking his video. It looks much different. And then do you see what we're talking about here? So even though it was after, it could have been 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours after Zelensky made his address from that same area. You go there, you hit the sign, you change how it looks, and then you say, hey, this is how it looks now. There's no way he could have possibly been there. See how that works? See how that happens? And again, I'm not saying that's been confirmed as to what happened, but again, I would not put it out of the realm of possibility. I would not put that past something that the Russians would absolutely do to try to combat the narrative that they no longer, or they never had, complete and total control of these areas that we're now seeing. Again, Ukrainians pop up in Kupyansk and in Pokrovsk, to be more specific. But I mean, you can see here clearly on the ground another bit of the sign, which I don't know. Let's see if we can go back to Zelensky's address. Let's see here. Let me see. We are at 220. Do they ever show? Can you see anything on the ground here as far as that sign is concerned? I mean, you can see remnants and bits and pieces, but it doesn't look like that's the actual sign itself. But now if you scroll ahead, if you go ahead to what he was just showing here, I mean, you can clearly see on the ground that one piece, the blue and the yellow on it, clearly a part of that sign. So again, let's just see if he goes on.
We'll repost this again and again and again, just because Che or Scott Ritter or Jackson Hinkle or whoever has posted it. Here, this is my favorite. Is it possible to lose weight in one day? Okay, so this is the 12th. Here's the 13th. He looks slimmer. Well, from this angle, I look slimmer than from, say, this angle, right? I don't look all that, healthy comparatively compared to here, but it's just a matter of where the camera is. It's just
not only that, but at what point you took the picture, what word you were saying when you took the picture, like what motion your cheeks were making at this, you know what I mean? Like your cheeks make a different motion when you're saying, a different letter or a different set of letters compared to others, right? So it could have the illusion if you take a picture at the wrong, I mean, who hasn't turned their face at some period of time and a picture's been taken and you look fucking completely hideous. So you don't actually have 10 chins. That's just how it kind of looked at that moment in time from that angle, right? So again, none of these things actually go to specifically explain away or, go to deny the fact that Zelensky was in the area making the address, where he said he made the address, when he said he made the address. But all are little bits of Russian propaganda put out there by these fucking assholes, Jackson Hinkle, Che Bows, whatever his name is, the usual suspects and then the not so usual suspects in order to, to try to combat the narrative from Ukraine.
It's kind of silly to be making this kind of argument. This one's even funnier. This is how he
I like this one. This is the green screen theory. We got a serial crusher theory and a huge guy theory. And now we got a green screen theory. Green Street, that's a great movie. Sorry, I almost said Green Street Hooligans, but it's Boondock Saints.
Should have done it, says the alternative news channel. Zelensky recorded the background sequence in Kupyansk weeks before he claimed to have been there. Okay, sure he did. That's just repeating the same propaganda point. Here's a reminder how he should have done it. Use a green screen for his green screen. I'm not sure if that's great English. Joke, this would not work, but that stunt of Zelensky was funny. So he's trying to make it look like, yeah, he was doing it in a studio, and others were alluding to that kind
of course, you can see, in case anybody is even remotely fooled by what you're seeing on the screen right now, you can clearly see it on the screen, says Sora. Sora, as we all know, is the AI, the AI site, the AI app that allows you to make shit just like this that looks fucking ultra real, but is not. Right. So again, just to let you know, you can see the mouse here, Sora. That's why it says Sora on there. But a lot of people not smart enough to recognize that, not smart enough to know that, and will absolutely repost this, will absolutely quote tweet it with their own bullshit on it, being like, oh my God, they were caught.
The thing as well. This didn't actually happen this way. Okay. This is what a leader does. He visits his men in the most dangerous parts of the front. A leader doesn't hide in a bunker. Like, well, I mean, do you really believe that when Putin was doing...
I'll say it like a pussy-ass bitch. Sorry, Professor. I know you're probably a little above and beyond that, due to your career and your accomplishments. I, however, am not. I was born right into it. I was born for it. So fuck him, fuck Putin, fuck Trump. They're pussy-ass bitches. That's what Phylacteria was trying to say. And again, I would advise... I do believe he has... Fella Rakhtar, I do believe he has a Blue Sky as well, but in case you're worried, or not worried, but in case you're trying to get some up-to-date information on Ukraine, I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, but I would probably type that into Blue Sky if you're on there and see if you could follow him. That's definitely a good follow. But yes, a leader does not hide in a bunker like a pansy ass bitch. No problem saying that here.
Hide in a bunker. Like, well, I mean, do you really believe that when Putin was doing this meeting with Gerasimov near the front in an extraordinary move, Putin visits the command center of the West forces and meets with Chief of Staff Gerasimov, where he announced the liberation of Kupyansk? Do you really believe that Putin was close to the front? I mean, in your heart of hearts, do you really believe that? Okay.
No, and again, just to show you, again, on the map where there was geolocated where Zelensky was, in case you didn't watch the other show that we did this, Zelensky was just down in this area here, right here, right? So I think he was about a kilometer, a little more than a kilometer from the nearest, Russian troops, as said here on the deep state map. So just about, I think it was this intersection here, if I'm not mistaken, right here. Right. So you can see just how close he was to this is disputed territory. The gray is the disputed, red being Russia, blue being the Ukrainian territory that was liberated. So, I mean, you can see just how close he was, with my mouse right here, just how close he was to the action, close he was to the city, to the city limits of Kupyansk, how close he was to the Russian, the Russian troops out in the open, broad daylight. So again, showing the heroism, showing his soldiers, and it does a lot to boost the morale of the soldiers. Again, we talked about how, in World War II, how the leaders that led from the front were respected and got the most out of their men, right? You know what I mean? It wasn't the people that sat in the fucking air-conditioned offices way, miles back behind the front, just giving out orders to, pins on a map or anything like that. It was the guys that were out there amongst the men, getting dirty, fucking getting cold, wet and muddy and being hungry and eating what they ate. Those are the soldiers and the commanders and the generals that got the most respect from their men, that got the most action out of their men. And this is, again, a great sign of leadership, a great show of leadership here by Zelensky, putting himself in harm's way to, again, boost the morale, to show people of his countrymen and women, that not only are they still in the fight, but he's in the area and don't listen to the Russian propaganda. So, lots of aspects in which that does good for his countrymen and women to, again, show up on the front, show up in these dangerous areas, show up to the areas that Russia proclaimed that they had, complete and total control of, to, again, put that to rest, put that narrative to bed, to show, again, their countrymen and women that they're there and they're fighting for them. Oh, my apologies. I do that a lot. I'll put this back on the screen because that's what I'm listening to.
At other propaganda, and they're raising the budget for propaganda. How Russia is waging his war of disinformation on Vienna's streets. Russian agents pretend to be Ukrainian Nazis, spray anti-Russian graffiti, and pave Vienna with stickers. Okay.
Oh, and that reminds me. And wasn't there just a British guy? Wasn't there just a British guy arrested for trying to spy for the Russians? British, and the guy thought he was James Bond, for fucking Christ's sakes. Russia spy. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Let me see it. But yeah, Howard Phillips. Howard fucking Phillips. Let me throw this on your screen. Good grief. Man, British man jailed after trying to spy for Russia. And again, this is a kind of a side note because I think it was more, what do you have to pay for the BBC now? What, bruv? Oi. Fuck off. I ain't fucking paying for nothing. You fucking pillock. All right, let's go to another. I'll just go to another article. I'm sure there's a bunch more. CBC. Here we go. We'll go to this one. How's that? So this is British man with James Bond dreams jailed for trying to pass secrets to Russia. And again, just showing you how easy it is sometimes for the Russians to expose different people and to utilize different idiots that we have fucking running around in today's society. So this guy tried to set up a meeting with who he thought was Russian intelligence, apparently, but was really just, fucking undercover agents from the UK, and said he was dreaming about being like James Bond. 66 found guilty in July for trying to pass information about former Defense Secretary Grant Shapps, who he knew the two men believed to be Russian intelligence agents. However, the agents were undercover British intelligence agents. Fucking idiot. What a fucking idiot. On camera, asking for money. And again, I know that's a side note because I don't think that was actively, perpetrated or activated by the Russians, but just to show how fucking idiotic some people we have in today's society are. It's fucking crazy.
So they're doing other things like that too. You don't see the Ukrainians doing what the Russians are doing. The reaction, by the way, has been really positive in the West, and that's what they're reacting to. The reaction of the U.S. press to President Zelensky's visit to Kupyansk has been overwhelmingly positive and beneficial for Ukraine.
And that's the major point. That is the major point, because you'll only see Russia try to attack and combat and propagandize a certain situation when it is harmful to them, right? When it is negative, when they can see that on the world stage it's being picked up by different media organizations and that it's having an effect on, the narrative inside the area, especially as these, ridiculous, as they're called, peace talks are going on, right? They don't want that narrative. They want the most territory gained, the most fucking towns taken over, so that they have the most the best positioning at the negotiating table to come out with the most beneficial outcome for the Russians. And all of this, anything that Zelensky was doing and saying, and the combating of what happened in Kupyansk and going on and combating what's happening in Pokrovsk still, like, just goes to harm the official narrative of the Russian fucking government, of the Kremlin, which is why they're actively doing their utmost to try to, again, go against the narrative, combat the narrative. But again, let's take a look at the drone strikes on the Russian submarines, because this was pretty friggin' cool to see. Another successful mission undertaken by the Ukrainians, either using sea drones, air drones, whatever it may be. This is pretty fucking crazy footage to see. And then we'll take a look at this clip, which is taking a look at the possibility that there were multiple Russian submarines, not only attacked but damaged in this attack. And this is from Kupyansk. I'm not familiar with it, but he seems to have good insight into the footage here. So let's dive into this first one by Preston Stewart, talking about the new drone strikes on a Russian sub. And then we'll dive into that second video, talking about whether or not 2 different Russian subs were actually hit in this attack. So again, Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Thank you very much. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate you guys. Oh, hold on.
So yesterday, Ukraine used an underwater drone called.
Sorry, the professor was still wanting to get his piece in. My apologies. Let me put this on.
So yesterday, Ukraine used an underwater drone called the Subsea Baby to strike a Russian submarine in port. And it is looking more and more like the Russian Black Sea.
All right, so it's kind of hard. It might be kind of hard to see on your screen. I'm not 100% sure, depending on what you're watching on. But if you can see my mouse, here's one Russian sub, and then you can see a Russian sub just over here in the corner. So this one's going obviously this way. This one's obviously going, facing the opposite, not the opposite, but a different direction than that, just in case, because they got a lot of these ships squared off and in the green. So what you need to be focused on are these 2 subs here. So one sub on the left side of the screen, one sub pretty much dead center in your screen. So pay attention there.
Sea fleet just isn't safe anywhere. So let's get into what we know, starting with the submarine strike, including new satellite imagery, battlefield updates from Kupyansk and Pokrovsk, and then the status of the ongoing peace talks. Starting out, Ukraine released this video yesterday where their SBU said they carried out another unique special operations and staged a naval showdown in the port of Novorossiysk. For the first time in history, underwater drones Subsea Baby blew up a Russian Kilo-class submarine. As a result,
so again, underwater drones, we've seen on top of water drones. Obviously, we've seen aerial drones a lot. We talked about the Sea Babies. Weren't those the first ones? I think these are similarly named, but obviously just underwater. But the first ones that we saw were pretty much sending us direct footage of their entire mission from start to finish and just ramming themselves right into the side of the Russian naval vessels, which was pretty cool to see. But this going underwater apparently now, more advanced in their drone technology, more advanced in their ability to strike inside of ports like this. Again, if it was an on top of water on the surface sea drone, it probably would have had much less of an opportunity, much less a percentage of getting in to strike that specific target if that was, again, the main target that they were going after, right? So again, you can see how the efficiency, you can see how this kind of the drone warfare is progressing both on the water and out of the water.
Of the explosion, the submarine suffered critical damage and was effectively put out of action. On board the submarine were 4 caliber cruise missile launchers, which...
Now, again, people were speculating, and he'll go on to kind of better explain this in the second video, but people were kind of speculating that it was 2 strikes based on that kind of second splash that you just saw. So you can see this original one, and then if you play the video,
out of action.
It kind
on board the submarine were 4 caliber...
But basically, that has kind of been shown to be just down to the way that the video was edited. It was just 1 strike. But we do go on to look afterwards, I'm not sure if he explains it here, at a possible second strike on that second submarine. So let's take a look.
Cruise missile launchers, which Russia used to strike at Ukrainian territory. They say the cost of these submarines is around $400.
See that right there? See that second smoke plume you can see? Kind of at the tail end of the second submarine. Some people were speculating to begin with it may have been debris falling from the original strike, But again, we'll go on to take a look at that second video, which directly kind of reacts to that.
$100 million US. But given the imposed sanctions, construction of a similar one could now cost up to $500 million. And a couple key things that stood out to me here. First off, how many of these subsea babies does Ukraine have? Generally speaking, when they carry out an attack like this, it's one of many. Like, this is not their only one in operation, so might see some other things going boom here before too long. What about drone or submarine nets? Any sort of protection in the harbor? It seems like Russia didn't have those, or they were bypassed. That's an interesting miss. And one that's kind of flying under the radar, but I feel like should probably get a lot of attention, is Ukraine, in releasing this footage, showed that they are actively monitoring some of the most sensitive security systems in Russia. I mean, they are watching the security system, the cameras overseeing.
It's another great point. That's another great point too. I mean, the access and the information that this gives the Ukrainian military. I mean, to have access to, this type of camera and a port of the Russian military to see, what ships are active, what ships are not active, what ships are leaving port, what ships are returning to port, how long are they gone for? What shape are they returning in? Are they well taken care of? Are they not well taken care of? Are the ships well maintained? Do they produce black smoke, white smoke? I mean, so many things can be gained from this. It's unbelievable. I know to us, it's just kind of another security camera footage of a drone strike. But, if the Ukrainian military, and I have no doubt that they do, has access to multiple cameras like this in multiple different ports, I mean, they are getting some really good insights, really good information as to, the activities of obviously the soldiers or the naval personnel in these ports and what that means and how they can strike them. Obviously, this is being used here. That knowledge, this information that they're gaining here has been used to show how they could get a subsea baby into this port to strike their $500 million submarine and possibly two $500 million submarines. So let's take a look and we'll go back to that video, but just to see if we can see if it's two or one, let's dive into this video. And again, just credit where credit is due. This is from Sukomimis. He's got 312,000 subscribers, so I guess I'm the only one that doesn't know who he is at this point. But all right, I'm going to throw this on the screen. And again, this is whether or not two submarines were possibly attacked in this attack. I don't know if people are kind of overlooking it. They didn't see it, or if this is the only person kind of reporting on this or not. I haven't seen it anywhere else, but let's take a look.
Hello, everyone. So I have a little update here on the marine drone strike on the Kilo-class submarine at Novorossiysk. I have a few bits to go through here. First of all, let's take a look at the video of the attack again, playing now, because it's definitely worth another look. Russians are claiming that the attack failed and no damage was caused to the submarine.
No, the attack failed and no damage was done to the submarine. We're quite literally looking at the attack succeeding and the explosion, a vast explosion happening mere fucking meters, if not directly on that submarine, which I'm sure has the effect of causing damage to a submarine. For them to even suggest that no damage was caused, again, same people that said the Moskva went back to its own port under its own power, same people that say they shot down, and I think he says that here, the same people that say they shot down, every drone every night. It's unreal.
This is the same Russians who said that the Moskva was returning to port under its own power, and that no airframes were destroyed during Operation Spiderweb, or who constantly claim all drones were intercepted and then when debris lands on the burning oil refineries that we keep seeing. So the Russian Ministry of Twaddle has got the ball rolling here. I definitely think that isn't the case. The sub is damaged, and possibly damage to the other submarine too, which I'm going to get to soon. Now, in this video, we see a nice big blast initially, and then what looks to be a smaller blast of some type shortly afterwards. Suggested by some.
So I'm just going to skip forward because this is where he goes to show that it's basically just the editing done in the video that makes it seem like it was two blasts on that one submarine. Basically, he uses, and I'll get out of the way so that you can see it. There's a boat here, if you can see my mouse, just in between. Why can't you see my mouse? Just in between these two ships in the front of your screen here where this orange mast is, you can see an orange boat just in between the two squares, right? So watch that boat, and that's how we can kind of tell, how the video was edited. So you can see how it jumps up in distance.
Secondary explosion.
This boat here.
I'm going to burst that bubble.
Right here.
That isn't the case. It isn't a secondary explosion. It's just the way that the video has been edited.
See how it jumps forward a little bit? So you can tell that it's just an edit in the video, which fine, they're just trying to showcase the explosion. But here's where he talks about the second one.
It has disappeared. You can see it in these screenshots side by side here. So this isn't a secondary blast as some people think. It's the remnants of the same one, what gives the impression that it is, thanks to some rather dodgy editing work here. Now, let's move on to the second sub, and this is the most interesting for me. Was there a second marine drone or something similar that hit this second submarine? For this, I'm going to go through some screenshots with the key areas highlighted, so bear with me. So the initial blast is here. Check out the little boats positioned in yellow moving past a warship. Here, on next screenshot, after the first bit of silt and stuff has settled and the vapour is in the air, it's moved further forward along the warship. Now we're coming to the interesting bit. Here, just as the blast is dying down, we can see the little boat now near the front of the Russian warship. Now here, this is a split second in the video after that last screenshot, and we see that the small boat has now jumped position.
So now we can see that the original strike, the original explosion here on the left has completely died down. The spray, the explosion has completely subsided already. The boat here on the right-hand side that you can see has gone pretty much from this area where my mouse is all the way to here. And then you can see this secondary explosion in the red. See it circled in the red just at the tail end, basically, of that submarine. It's hard to tell because of the end of it is basically fully submerged in the water, how far back that sub goes. But I mean, you can see just the proximity, how close it is to that second submarine here.
By maybe 10 to 15 meters. So there is a couple of seconds cut in the video here. The spray on the left-hand side has disappeared, but at this moment, we're seeing another blast at the tail end of the second Kilo submarine. Now, I initially thought this was falling debris. It's only when I looked closer at it today that I realised something was off. I noticed that cut in the video in the boat jumping positions, and I realised that the timing for this to be debris is all wrong. This second blast near the second Kilo submarine is just coming too late for it to be as a result of falling debris. And for a splash this size, I would think we would see the falling debris in the air before it impacts on the water here. And I've watched this video a few times and I can't spot it. Well, then my eyes aren't very good. Maybe I've just missed it. Now, this is difficult to analyse properly because the video is slowed down with Ukraine, with the first bit slowed down to showcase the blast. But even with the video roughly re-edited in order to be timed correctly, so going at real speed, there is around 10 seconds between the initial big blast and the splash near the second. So maybe
around 10 seconds between the initial blast, and that second one that we're looking at.
Because remember, there is a cut in the video, a little jump of a few seconds as well. So maybe around 13 seconds in total. I think that's too long a period of time for this to be falling debris landing from the initial strike. So, is it a second attack? Now, I'm going to play the second clip again because we have more evidence that it is. This time, don't watch the blast itself, watch the two warships just below the sun.
So he's saying, watch the two warships. So I guess the two warships right here in the center of your screen, watch in this, the bigger green square. Watch these two warships and you can see them, and I'll make it big on your screen. I'll get out of the way so you can see it. But he's saying, watch these two warships right here, and you can actually see the blast from that second one apparently was enough to even move those warships. You can see them kind of rocking back and forth. So clearly it was a more substantial impact than just, some debris falling from the original impact. So check this out.
Submarine. You can see here that they wobble. Whatever this second blast was, it was big enough to make two massive warships wobble.
See those things? I mean, you can see them clearly rocking back and forth. I mean, there's two massive Russian warships here. So clearly that second strike wasn't just, something falling from the air and striking the platform or striking the dock or whatever it was.
All like that. So this impact on the water here isn't debris. Debris wouldn't be strong enough.
But I am also just thinking right now, another explanation for that, and, just to play devil's advocate for just 1 second, what would also make sense is the original wake created from the original blast. Those waves would just be reaching those warships, which would, again, make them heave up and down with the waves. You know what I'm saying? So you can see the ripple effect. You can see the ripple effect here from the first strike. You know what I'm saying? So once those waves from the first strike inevitably get to these Russian warships, it's going to make them, rock back and forth. So let's see if I can just rewind it for a second and see if that's maybe the case.
Wobble. Whatever this second blast was, it was big enough to make two massive warships wobble like that. So
But, you know, in all fairness, it doesn't look like that the wake had gotten to them yet. In all fairness, doesn't look like. Looks like the waves are still. Looks like this is calm water here in between the waves that you can see in the warship. So it doesn't look like that wake has actually made it to the warship yet.
Impact of the water here isn't debris. Debris wouldn't be strong enough to have an impact like this to make two warships wobble. This has to be a second blast on the second submarine. It's the only thing I can think of. The timing, as mentioned, doesn't match. From the first impact to the ships wobbling, the time span is too great, I would think. The ships have been caused to wobble by the blast on the second submarine. I'm no scientist, but by the time the ships wobble, the water spray has already settled down, and surely the aftershocks would have reached these two boats before then, causing that little wobble you can see. This wobble is coming pretty much after the explosion on the second kilo. The jump in the video is very suspicious to me. And then this blast is at the tail end of the submarine, the same area as the first strike took place, which suggests that Ukraine has decided this was a bit to hit. And I'll get to that later.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good thing to point. I mean, that's a good piece of information too, because if you look at it, the first strike was taking place at the tail end of the submarine, and the second strike, or the second potential strike, was also at the tail end of the submarine. So obviously, if you go for the prop, you know what I mean, if you're going for the propeller, that will totally make it so you can't fucking move the submarine, and you don't really have to sink it to make it immobile or make it unusable, right? So again, this is just a little bit of information I saw this morning while trying to research this, and maybe to suggest that there were two separate submarines that were damaged possibly. And again, if it's a $500 million sub, we got $1 billion in submarines damaged in one attack. Here is a pretty substantial fucking attack, and definitely something that I thought we should definitely take a look at. So what do you say? Yeah, I'm pretty much out of time now. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Another great show. But just to kind of, just to recap what we were talking about, the United States engaging in another 3 strikes, killing another 8 people as far as the, so-called narco terrorist drug boat strikes are concerned. So that's something that you wanted to take a look at. Obviously, the ridiculous and egregious rhetoric from Donald Trump and the reaction by the right to what he said about Rob Reiner and his wife's tragic death. Yeah, it's pretty gross. Obviously, the incompetence of the FBI in handling everything pretty much now, the ongoing debauchery of what's going on, taking place in the Brown shooting. So yeah, lots to talk about. I would definitely advise people to check out Susie Wiles's Vanity Fair story, the story on Vanity Fair about Susie Wiles and her comments, because that's pretty crazy as well. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Let's get into thanking some people, and I'll get you guys out of here to celebrate the rest of your day so you can take care of and support some more independent creators that I'm sure are right to follow right behind me. So what do you say we get into the old Venmos? I appreciate you guys. Again, right here up in the corner, if anybody is, nice enough, kind enough to send in a buck or two, I would really, really appreciate it. And thank you very much for doing so. Again, anything above and beyond $1 or $2 is totally up to you guys. There's no way I could possibly, with any good conscience, clear conscience, ask for any more than that. But yeah, let's see if we can get into it here. I really appreciate. Let's see who's first on the list. First on the list is Dame. Thank you, Dame Dog. I appreciate you. Jenny Faye, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Nancy, Karen, and Victoria and Tom. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you very much. Happy holidays from my family to yours, from everybody here at Blunt Politics to everybody in your family. Thank you so much for your contributions. Let's see if anybody was kind enough to get to me here on Venmo. On the YouTubes. Let's see here. Yeah, Tomas, how are you, buddy? Slava Ukraina, Heroyam Slava. This is my TED Talk. Well, me too. I appreciate you guys. You guys keep me sane. You guys keep me going. JD, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tomas, for the 22 months, by the way. Appreciate you, man. Always good to see you here. Always good to have you here, and we appreciate your support of the community. Thank you, JD. That goes for you as well for the $5 profanity bonus. Appreciate that. Thank you, George. George Daly with the $5. Shout out to you, my man. Appreciate you. Jen, what's up, brother? What's going on, my man? Jim says, BB, Susie Wiles would know an alcoholic's personality. Her dad, Pat Summerall, was a severe alcoholic who needed a liver transplant. Her dad was Pat Summerall? Get the fuck out of here. I didn't know that. I did not know that. A little bit of information. You learn something new every day. You learn something new every day. Appreciate you, Jen. Thank you for the 5. Bicycle Mike, what's up, brother? How are you, my man? FG, fuck Donald Trump Jr. Why do I say Jr.? Fuck Donald Trump. Go Crustacean Nation. I appreciate you, brother. But yes, well, we can stack them in together. But we appreciate you, Bicycle Mike. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here, representing the community. Thank you so good. Deb, appreciate you. Thank you, Deb, for the 5 gifted. Make sure if anybody was one of those 5 gifted members to get one of those 5 gifted memberships, that we're thanking Deb in the old chat. And even if you weren't one of the ones to receive the membership, please make sure we're thanking Deb. Goes a long way. I think we're still, I haven't looked in a while. I'm not one of those people that checks up on it every single day, but I think we're still very close to 1,000 members here on YouTube, which would be a huge accomplishment. 15,000 subscribers, 1,000 members here. Just, fantastic numbers, a fantastic show of support here for the channel. Makes it worthwhile. It absolutely does. So please make sure you check out a membership. If it's financially viable for you, check it out. Support for a month. That's all I ask for. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Midas Cam, as well. Thank you for being here for 6 months. It says, thanks for keeping the truth alive. I am very much doing my very best to try to keep the truth alive as to, the best of my abilities. Again, I'm not a professor. I didn't go to Harvard. I'm not sitting here trying to teach you guys things or sit here in a soapbox and talk down to you guys. We are one and the same. We are learning this and going through this together because it affects us just the same. I am no better or worse than anybody. I am one of you guys. So I appreciate you for supporting me the way that you guys always do. Robin, thank you so much for the 5 gifted as well. Very nice of you, very supportive, and I appreciate you very much for what you do. And to round it out, thank you, Nina, so very much. I appreciate you guys. I will let you go. Until tomorrow. We got a doubleheader tomorrow, so don't miss it. We're going to be on at 1 o'clock here on the East Coast, and then we'll be here at 8:30 tomorrow night on the East Coast. Make sure you're checking out wherever you live. Check out the time zones, check out the schedule, or you can just hit that notification bell, and that will let you know whenever I go live, whenever I put out a short, whenever I put out a video, whatever it may be, that will notify you. So if you enjoy the channel, if you enjoy the show, you like what you're hearing, you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 20K. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to my friends and family for all the support that you guys show. Thank you to Mel for all the work that you guys put into this. And happy holidays to everybody. I'll continuously say it. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Kwanzaa. Whatever you guys celebrate, I really do. I hope that you have the most fantastic time with friends, family, loved ones, whoever it may be. And I appreciate you for spending that little bit of time here with me during this hectic holiday season that I know it is for everybody. So thank you so much for your passion, your contributions to the show. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the doubleheader, another doubleheader. All right. So thanks, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. If you did not do it on the way in, goes a long way in helping show YouTube and everybody else that people are engaged and like the program, and maybe they'll send it out to some other people that haven't watched it yet. So I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? It's a new form of vicious violation to our country.
My superpower is being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
guys. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. Make sure you check out all the other fabulous independent creators on this platform and other platforms. If I don't bring you the most value, the most bang for your buck, please support who does. If I do, please support this channel. I thank you guys. I appreciate it. Right, Alyosha. Appreciate you, buddy. Absolutely right, WW.
The rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
I mean, they've been conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
He says rectum damn near killed him. They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated?
White people are a mortal danger to you and your loved ones.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. Please hit that like button or a thumbs up, whatever the hell it is on your platform. Share the show out, guys. Thank you.
There's no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
Brian, you're drunk. You're drunk.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it.
I say mud, I said crud. You falling to some crud or something? I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants. Where you going? Nowhere. Wrong. Army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. Go fuck yourself.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement. It moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. A revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable. I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Yesterday's a hard word for me. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. What uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things. The big, fat, sloppy United States.